Hey, welcome to another episode of the Philosophy Podcast. I am your host, Controversy, and to my right, ladies and gentlemen, my co-host, as always, none other than Mr.
Darren Love.
And together, we are the Philosophy Podcast. Thank you to you guys for tuning in once again this week. Thank you for tuning in to a brand new episode. And without further ado, like we always say, what is on the agenda for this week, mate? What is today's
hot topic?
That's it.
I thought we'd talk about mental health today.
Mental health. Very, very interesting. So this week, we're talking all about
mental health.
That's it. What are your thoughts and your opinions and your ideas, mate, on mental health and everything that surrounds that and encapsulates that kind of topic?
Well, I think there's a lot of people in the world today. I think it's one of the biggest problems in the world. Mental health problems is the biggest problem in this country, I think, and America, that's for sure.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people with mental health problems in this world today, do you know what I mean?
Most definitely. And I think it's more prominent today than ever before. And also because once upon a time, people didn't really understand what was fully going on. You know, like science has come a long way, let's put it that way, in terms of like biology and understanding the mind and the body, you know, in terms of like biology and, neurologically, if you see what I mean. We've come a long way, if you see what I mean, in terms of understanding the brain and the mind and the different parts of the mind and how it affects the body and how, you know, how all different parts.
We've learned a lot more in the last 500 years, haven't we? Especially with computers as well. We've just learned so much, especially with printing and books. You know, I think that with the internet, basically we've all learned the insides of the body.
Yeah.
Most of us have.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we understand a lot more than we did. Or do we? I don't know. I feel like we've lost some things in history.
Yeah.
But I feel like mental health is one of the biggest issues in the world today.
I agree, for sure.
And there's so many different
variations of...
Yeah, and well, there's so many different drugs as well, isn't there? With different people with different mental health problems.
Yeah.
I mean, even myself, I've been told that I'm bipolar. And I don't even know what really that is, to be honest with you. You know, and I don't think I'm bipolar. And I've said to the doctors I'm not bipolar, but that's what I'm diagnosed as.
Yeah.
Bipolar. And it kind of angers me that I've been told that I'm bipolar.
Yeah.
When originally I went to go and see a doctor because I lost my family.
Yeah.
And I felt...
You're a bit low.
I just needed some kind of help.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, I thought that going to the doctors, they would help me one way or another, you know, because I just found life so mentally difficult. One, I've lost my home, you know, and children and whatever, you know, so it just drove me... I had no choice in a kind of way, you know, because I was just pulling my hair at the time, you know. I had custody of my children, and I had to work. I just had to do so many things at once in a kind of way, you know, and it just sort of, it does give you a kind of mental breakdown. You know, it's just not natural to cope with so many things, I don't think, in life. You know, really, in reality, we should all stay together, you know, as a couple, but in this world today, people get married and get divorced in no time. And I think a long time ago, people used to get married and they used to sort of keep married.
Yeah, stay together longer. People used to fight more for their marriages and stuff, didn't they? People used to try and stick it out and try their best to try and like make it work, you know, for the family, the families involved and the children and everything else, you know, the whole, you know, for better or for worse thing. It's like, I'm glad you brought this up because I don't want to go too far off topic, but I do want to touch on this very, very quickly now that you've brought it up, and I think it's very, very important that it's something we talk about really as a culture and as a society today, because like you said, marriages and everything today, people seem to give up so quickly today. It seems to be very little fight amongst the younger generation today when it comes to their marriage and stuff. And yeah, I just find that, yeah, that's kind of essentially what I wanted to say. I think people just treat people too disposably today. People think that the grass, like they say, the grass isn't always greener. The grass is green where you water it. And that essentially means that applies to everything in life, especially relationships. The more you pour into it, the more you generally and essentially get out of it. Not always, but generally speaking, if both parties are pouring into the relationship, both parties are doing what they're, fulfilling their roles within the relationship, as a man and a woman, and they're making each other happy, then that's, but, I think people need to have a bit more resilience today. People need to understand that, when you take those vows, so many people take these vows and make these vows when they get married, for better or for worse, for sickness and in health, all these various different things that they say in the moment, and they supposed, you're making a vow, you're supposedly making a covenant to that person and to God, depending on, if it's a religious wedding, or not. And it's just like people, it's almost like people just forget about all those things. It's like you promised, for better or for worse, that you were willing to stay with this person and to try your best to make it work and to do everything that is required and needed to make it work, but yet still you're willing to just give up at the slightest, that you've had an argument and you want to give up. Like, it's just,
I think it's the modern world we're living in today.
People's attention span, in a way.
People today, they've got to learn about computers.
Yeah.
They've got to take so much in today, really, than they ever have done.
Yeah, true, yeah.
And you think, like, say, go back in time, 500 years ago, when you got married, there wasn't such a big entertainment world as there is today. Well, they want the internet, they want, to grab onto and look at porn all day or whatever, or talk to someone else or something like that. They just want so many temptations about a long time ago for you to break up in a kind of way.
Yeah.
Where I feel like even my marriage dissolved simply because my ex-wife started to talk to somebody else on the internet, and she kind of lost interest in me. And I feel like this happened to so many couples.
Many couples, yeah.
And it's sort of like the internet has created a lot of mental health problems, if you ask me.
It has, yeah.
Like today, I've seen children walk side by side, and they've got a phone in their hand, and they're not sort of talking to each other anymore. They're talking to, they're sort of living in their own worlds with, the dimensions of the world has dramatically changed in 50 years, if you ask me. I've seen it myself.
And not only that too, but you get people who, like they call it social media bullying, I guess, where you have people that literally will, because they might not like someone, that they will get themselves and their friends to leave like really nasty comments on people's profiles and pictures and all this kind of stuff too as well. So because, like you said, because people are more accessible than ever before today, it does cause a lot of these things, doesn't it? It does cause...
There's all sorts of problems, like theft, identity theft, sort of like card theft and all this.
Fraud, scamming and shit.
There's all kinds of things, and it's hard for people to take in this new world, really.
Yeah.
We're stepping into a new era, and it's digital.
Yeah.
Very digital. I mean, even the cards you swipe him now, and it's sort of invisible, isn't it? And it's quite
but actually, it's just based off the internet, innit? It's like the internet, it's, because like those 3 little bars that are on your card, at the end of the card, that's the bit you put on the contactless, innit? If you see what I mean. Because those 3 stripes, that's the wireless bit, if you see what I mean. That's the...
But even like security's gone up, like there's cameras everywhere, as you know, they're installing them now everywhere. So we're all being kept a close eye on.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I mean?
Being watched.
So that's another, this wasn't around 50 years ago. There were many cameras around 50 years ago when I was a child. This is all brand new. And is it good or is it bad? I think it's quite good, really. I feel like the world has got better in a kind of way, because when I was younger, has it got better? Because as I say, the children in my time, they used to sort of play together, you know, and they used to sort of play games together outside in the garden. But today, that's changed, where I feel like children stay in their homes, they stay safe from the world, where the world is quite dangerous, the roads are quite dangerous anyway for children. They've got to learn the Green Code today, that's for sure. So it's quite a dangerous world for children. They stay in and they study a lot, and they also play games now and again.
Yeah.
And it's a different
society than even what it was 20 years ago.
It's a different reality.
Yeah.
Then I think that every 10 years, reality changes.
Well, especially in the last 50 years, for sure, at least.
Oh yeah, I mean, as soon as something's invented, it goes right around the world. That's the truth.
And it has a global impact, doesn't it?
Even when the car was invented, okay,
oh, for sure. Yeah,
it went right round. You know, the China had it, and they started building roads absolutely everywhere around the world. I think almost every place in the world.
Yeah.
And it's every time something's invented, like the computer, it goes right instantly. It's like fire when they invented that. That sort of somebody showed somebody else to make it, and everybody knew. If you see what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of how the world works, isn't it?
Loneliness is a mental health problem.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's a lot of that today too. You get a lot of people who are, especially older people, they say, you know, according to statistics, you know, of course you get younger people who get lonely too, of course that happens, but they say that apparently the large majority of people who are suffering really more so from loneliness is the older people, you know, the ones that are living alone in their homes and have very little contact with the outside world because of their mobility or because of other reasons, whatever else. And yeah, you know, people end up, you know, over time, they just kind of just deteriorate, you know, they have very little you know, just kind of no social interaction really with anyone, and they just live a very isolated life, yeah, for lack of a better word. I was going to say reclused. Very
some people are isolated all their life, that's the truth, you know, from a child. And they get left out, and they get left behind, and they always, sometimes they pull themselves up. Like, to be honest with you, I mean, when I was at school, I was quite popular in the junior schools, and I had, you know, just a number of friends and quite a happy child, really. But when I moved up to the seniors, what they did, they separated everyone, and they put me right down the bottom set. And I mean, I know that I've said this before, and they had 7 different sets, but I was right down the bottom where people found it very difficult to read and write, and people took the mickey out of these people. You know what I mean? I was, you know, they call you dunce sometimes. In the bottom set. You know, I mean, children are pretty cruel.
Yeah, of course.
And I felt pretty bad. You know, it gave me mental health problems just being pushed down there, you know, because I knew that I was intelligent in other things. Like, for instance, I was quite good with maths, or good at arts, good at running, alright, but I wasn't very good at spelling or anything like that. I was a bit dyslexic, because I think I was left-handed, okay, and I think that gave me trouble writing. I think a lot of left-handers struggle a little bit with English and so on. So anyway, that was my struggles, but I felt very anxious when I was at school, very anxious. I can remember it now, and anxious is sort of a feeling of not wanting to be there.
Oh yeah, of course, that anxiety,
very unhappy feeling, actually.
Uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. And it's being at a place where you don't want to be, you know, and I felt like that most of my time in my senior schools, let's put it that way. Not all the time, you know, when I was in my art class, I was a happy child. Or when I was in the playground, I was a happy child, but when I was at school, most of the time, I was mentally frustrated.
I see.
If you see what I mean. You know, and that's probably why I got bipolar. You know, the doctors say I've got bipolar. And I don't even, they've not really told me what it is or explained to me. But, you know, like, when you go and see a doctor, and you say, oh, your wife's just taking your keys, you know, whatever, and taking your house off you and everything. They don't turn around and say, here Mr. Thorne, take some bananas, have some water, drink a bottle of water every day, and there's £1,000. They don't do that. You know, and that's the thing. You know, that's the. So you know, today, to be honest with you, I don't really trust doctors at all. You know, I just feel like they push you down the ladder rather than trying to bring you up the ladder. That's how I feel. That's my experience with them anyway. And yeah, I feel like that's another reason why people are mentally ill today, because they're getting unfairly treated out there.
Yeah, I think it's societal pressure, really, societal pressure of today, and trying to survive in this modern world is not an easy task for anyone, really. You know, it's,
well, you've got to be a mathematician.
It's, you know, especially if you're the type of person, you know, you've got a full-time job, you've got kids, you've got a wife or whatever, and you know, you've got other goals and other things you're trying to achieve in your life, and life can be exceptionally busy. Life can be sometimes overwhelming. You still manage, even though sometimes you might feel a little bit overwhelmed because, you know, you've got a lot on your plate, but somehow you manage to juggle everything and you still manage to handle your shit. But it doesn't mean that it's easy, you know. Like that old saying, sometimes they say, oh, I make it look easy, but really it's not. It's you know, that is the case for a lot of people. You know, it's easy to judge or to be critical of someone looking in from the outside world, but most people don't know like the intimate details or the in-depth details of someone else's life and what's going on in their life and what they're experiencing and what, you know, it's like how many people go into, okay, as we're talking about like mental health and stuff, like how many people go into work every day with mental health issues, but have to leave that at home, if you get what I'm trying to say. You know, there's plenty of people out there suffering mental health issues and stuff like that, but when they step into their job or their whatever they do for a living or whatever the case may be, they have to try their utmost best and everything to leave that behind, if you see what I mean. You know, so it's not easy for a lot of people. You know, a lot of people are, especially people who've really got real serious mental health problems and they're really struggling, but at the same time they're trying their best to live a normal life and trying to like blend in with society and blend in with you know, everything else. You know, trying to be a normal person like everyone else. You know, but you know, it's not easy. You know, and I think that's a large cause of today's mental health problems. Is the people are overwhelmed. A lot of people are struggling to keep it all together, struggling to keep their finances afloat, struggling to work 50, 60 hours a week and at the same time look after their kids and do everything that they need to do for their children and their partners, plus trying to keep their families, you know, trying to also, you know, see their families and friends and have a social life, and you know, to juggle all these different things today, it's like I said earlier, it's not an easy feat for anyone really, but it's just about having a plan, essentially, you know, and understanding that you might not achieve every single thing that you want to achieve every day, but you know, to keep going, you know.
Well, I was, you know, like, so I was sort of like not married for 13 years, but I was with that woman for 13 years.
Yeah.
We were married for 8 years, and I was working every day, you know, and working hard and thinking I was achieving, and I was, you know, we were stepping up, and I did the garden up, everything in the end, you know, because we got a house at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, I lost it, and it really makes you mentally angry. It really mentally does you in, you know, because it, you know, next minute she's got a boyfriend living with her, and you go and visit your children, and you know, he's swearing, and it really angers you, you know, because, you know, there's just nothing you can do. It's too late, really, you know. I mean, there's just no way I can go back in time and try to fix things, do you know what I mean? And it's just not nice being, because I really devoted myself to my wife and loved her with my heart.
Yeah.
And I worked every day for her, you know, and I just did my most for her. She was, you know, a very beautiful woman, and I felt that I was very lucky to have her.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, met somebody on the internet and shut me out of home. You know, and so I know the truth. I know that I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't have any affairs or anything. I was really looking after my children, really, you know, with my heart, and they loved me with their heart. But no, she didn't. She wanted something else. Do you know what I mean? She wanted another dream. She wanted to smash my dream to pieces, which she successfully did, and take my children away too. And it really, that's the worst thing you can do to anyone, you know, any human being, is take their children away.
Yeah.
And I've had to live with this for years now. Sort of like, it's like being in prison.
Yeah.
You know, actually it's kind of worse, you know, because I've not done anything wrong. I've not murdered anyone or nothing.
Yeah.
She's just simply got away with it.
Yeah.
Met somebody else. I didn't get notified about the divorce, the court case.
Yeah.
And the absolute come through at my mum's address and things, you know, and we're just completely fooled on, you know, like, it's like having the carpet pulled up all of a sudden, you just can't do nothing about it. But I survived it, you know, I've had to go through hell, honestly. So, you know, I still suffer up today a little bit for it, you know, because it's just, it's not nice saying you can't see your daughter or your son. You know, you're not even, I'd be angry if God did it, if you see what I mean, yeah. And I know that this is not God's fault. This is what I believe, you know. I believe in God, and I just believe that this is just the system that I'm living in. They divide everything, every child in a kind of way, you know, every person in every way they can, I feel. And that's why I feel we've got mental health problems, a lot of us, because it's sort of like we haven't got a voice, in a funny way. We're all sort of like, I don't know, separated. But really, we're all family, but we can't see it.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, one human race.
Well, schools divided us. Everything's divided
Everything is a divide. Is a large. You know, most things are division tactic. You know.
I mean, a lot of people have got different uniforms out there, really, haven't they? So they're wearing different uniforms. Some people are wearing white coats. Some people are wearing army costumes. But at the end of the day, we're all human.
Yeah.
Underneath these costumes. And
it's true.
sometimes I feel like, because I have spoken to a number of doctors since my divorce, and I feel like I'm more professional about mental health than they are, in a funny way, because I'm the upper end, the sufferer, if you sort of mean, the one that, because I understand what anxiety is now. I understand what bipolar is a little bit, I think. Even though the doctors have taught me about it, much about it. There's borderline depression. There's lots of different
There's lots of
problems.
It's kind of an umbrella, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, I feel like even like we were talking about loneliness just now, and that's one of the biggest mental health problems in the world today, I feel. But some people have always been lonely, like I told you, all through their life, all through their childhood. Yeah. And they don't know what it's like to be with somebody.
They don't know anything else, yeah.
It's quite sad, really, isn't it? That some people can live like that.
Yeah.
And then even like marriage. I sometimes think, is this real? Or made up or what? You know, like two people go to church, give some money to the church or something, and they give them rings and that, And some people are married and they don't even like each other. And they want to divorce straight away, you know, that sometimes they've lived together all their lives and they don't even like each other. Or one person likes one, but the other person doesn't like her, or whatever, you know. But I just think there's lots of different problems with marriage. That it's even sad for the children in a funny way. I can't explain it. I just feel like someone created a business in a funny way, and it was called marriage a long time ago, and everyone followed the route. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, monogamy in itself is more of a European concept. Monogamy meaning the union of two people, like a man and a woman.
But not everyone can afford to get married, you see.
You got to think about it like in different countries, and like going back like hundreds of years, thousands of years, like in different countries and different civilizations and different cultures and stuff. They used to have different ideas. Some were monogamous, some were like polygamous, if you see what I mean. where they would have multiple wives. Like even if you're
I
a
know.
religious person and you read the Bible and these different things, when it talks about Solomon and these different kings and all these different people, they had lots of different wives and concubines and all sorts of things, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something not quite right about it. I can't explain it, but I feel like it's made our world very unnatural.
Well, it's one, obviously it come in predominantly through Christianity, and I guess and Judaism too, but predominantly more through Christianity, because obviously with the Crusades and all these different things that happened, you know, in the early, you know, hundreds, you know, all the different Crusades that were, you know, carried out from different people of different countries and stuff. A lot of it was, you know, based around Christianity, acceptance of Christianity and Christianizing the different peoples and different civilizations of different countries, essentially. You know, and obviously colonizing their land and enslaving those people too. Of course, that was part of it as well, because these people were wicked, you know. But yeah.
But even today, I think many people are struggling today to pay their rent or even pay their mortgage.
Yeah.
Or I just think it's not nice. It makes people mentally mad in a kind of way. Where I feel like if we didn't have all these problems, say we lived in a world where there was no bills. Can you imagine that? I mean, can you imagine if that's possible? Because it is possible. Because once we did live in a world without paperwork, or anything, you know what I mean? Paperwork, they come across, they created it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think before paper, it used to be on something else, alright, and then before paper, it used to be on stone.
Yeah, it was probably on parchment.
Or whatever, you know.
Probably the paper.
But man learned how to write, and it's kind of like altered the world in a very big way, in a funny way, where it's good learning languages.
Yeah.
Things.
Yeah. I give big credit to people out there that are, know multiple different languages. You know, that's to me that's it's a great thing. You know, it's a sign of intelligence in a way. To me, because you're able to retain all that information and then regurgitate it in different languages. That is quite an amazing feat, really. Whether or not it's useful to you, or that is debatable, and that's opinion based.
I think it's depending where you live.
Yeah, but if you're a big credit to anyone out there who knows more than one language, because being able to retain all that information in a different language and then be able to regurgitate it and have conversations and use it on a day-to-day level or basis, if that is the case, then that is quite amazing. Especially people that learn all these